Another good OTR turnout as well.
Yeah, it's incredible to see. Same with Moonriders.
Yeah, good Moonriders turnout.
Moonriders and Russia Racing.
Russia got a good team out, yeah. Who else? Only a couple of riders from 3R are there. Yeah. Wahoo Lecol have got a good team out. They've got at least 6 or 7 riders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hello everybody and welcome to stage 7 of the 2023 Tour de Monde. Now, this is going to be an exciting stage because we had one of the main leaders, currently in second place on GC, excuse me, John Beams went at 7 o'clock this morning in a field of just 4 riders. Now, John finished in 1 hour, 1 minute and 5 seconds, riding totally on his own for almost the full course. So the question is, folks, can some of you work together and beat that time? I'm going to be doing time splits for you. So let's see how it goes. Good luck, everybody. And they're off. Expect this to be a very fast start because it's downhill and they want a fast start getting into the hill. So I do think we'll see a largest group getting to the bottom of this climb. The question will be, can they stay together? We've got Morgan that's shot off the front, the OTR rider, and he's now being joined by some of his compatriots, both from OTR and the other teams. All together coming into the start of the climb. So it took them just a minute to get to the bottom of the climb here, which they're now on, and it's already 5%. Now, I do think we're going to see early separation with the stronger riders taking off the front. And I think for them to have any chance of catching John Beam's time, at least a couple of riders need to be pretty close to each other by the time they crest this first hill. Remember, we do the same course twice. Excuse me. So that gives us a good opportunity to write down some time splits, and let's see what happens. Okay, who have we got in this front group? Let's have a look. We've got Ostergaard, the Danish rider, leading them out at the moment. Daniel Schock and Kerpel are in his wheel. In fact, there's a decent sized group here managing to stay together at the moment. Tony DeLoyne is there. He's putting in a good effort at the moment. Now, he finished second yesterday, so yeah, I expect he'll be wanting a good showing here to move up the classification. Daniel Schock, of course, will be wanting to put in a good appearance this lunchtime. Yeah, they're just settling into the pace nicely now. Now, the slope never gets much above what it is at the moment. It's a fairly constant slope as opposed to an up and down like we had yesterday, where we saw gradients up to 20%. None of that today. I think the maximum gradient is just underneath the 8%. So I think in the high 7s, as you can see at the moment. and the grade being fairly constant will help the riders, to be honest. Yes, there's hairpins on this climb, and particularly on the downhill section. That's going to play a big part. But I think the hairpins on the way up, because it's a steady slope, shouldn't really play a big part. Now, I could be wrong there. It could prove me totally wrong, but when the gradient stays at around this, I think this is the maximum gradient, 8.6 that we're seeing now. So I think it averages, as I say, about 7%. And that's going to mean that the riders are going to be able to get into a nice steady rhythm. And maybe we'll see quite a few of the riders actually sticking together. Now you can see Henrik Maad down in 9th spot in this group. He's just out a shot on the view we're looking at the moment. There we go. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 12 riders in this front group. And as I say, it would be very beneficial if the majority of these riders can stay together. Small gap in the middle, but Henrik has just moved across to close that gap and bring in the pedalers rider with him as well. So he's actually got some teammates with him today. But Tony DeLoyne at the moment is leading them out on the climb with Kerpel in his slipstream. So I think nicely settling in here. You can see from the screen the wattage they're putting in 5 watt kilos just to maintain this pace. Now, John Beam's finished with an average of 4.24 watt kilos, which is not at the very top end, because I mean that's a huge effort for an hour, 4.24. But if you look back on some of the previous wattages in the mountain climbs, many riders were above that. So there is the opportunity here to beat John's time, but it's going to take a really full-out effort. The climbers won't be able to relax, shall we say, on the downhills or anything. They're going to have to, I think, go full gas. Having watched part of John's feed, he live streamed it himself this morning, and having watched part of it, I was in particular paying attention to his speed on the downhills, and John very rarely stopped pedaling. He was actually going into the red on the downhill sections, which is what you need to do if you want to maintain your pace and set a high target. So John knew exactly what he was doing, and I think that's the reason why he went out solo. I'm pretty sure also that he'll be watching this and trying to gauge how well these riders are doing. At the moment, as you can clearly see, Daniel Schock has pulled out a 40-meter gap off the front, but I don't think that will stick. I can see these riders coming back to him. Yes, it's going out a little bit more at the moment, but I think they're really working well together. So we'll see what happens. But the group is splitting up now. You've got 9 riders more or less together, with Daniel off the front. And And then you've got a couple of riders, Shapers and Careless Vespa, who have just dropped off this front group. And the question will be, can they get back on? We just moved down the field, and let's have a look, Andy, and see the riders that have just been dropped off. Here we go. So in this group, you've got, who have we got? Let's have a look.
Robot and Vespa, Schaefer's.
We've got Robot and Vespa, Shapers, Ostergaard. Yeah, so a good group here, but they really have to try and close that gap. It's only 66 meters at the moment. I say only, that's a big gap, and that's going to take some effort to close it up. Now I think it's worth just jumping back to the front again to have a look and see what's happening, because I'm looking at my other monitor and I'm seeing that the chasing group are actually closing up on Shock out in front. So if you just want to go back to that view for me, Andy. And there you can see Shock, and you can see the chasing group. As I said, they're not going to let him go at this early stage. So Daniel may well make an effort in the future and get away, but it's not going to happen so early into the race. These riders are just too strong. That's a very good push off the front by Kerpel, the Race 3R rider. And this is what they have to do, folks. They have to maintain a high pace. They can't afford to sit back and ease up on the climbing sections and even the downhill sections, but more importantly the climbing sections. They just can't afford to take any recovery. It's got to be full gas, because they have got a lengthy period. I reckon this climb is going to take them about 15 minutes, I would say 15-16 minutes to get to the top of the climb, and then they've got a good 15 minutes, I would say, to get to get recovery before they start it all again. So yeah, I think it makes sense to go full gas up the climb and then get your recovery on the plateau and the downhill sections. And you can see they're doing exactly that, because all these riders, the ones at the front, are putting out 5 watt kilos and above. So they are working at almost maximum effort here. When they go into the red numbers mean they're going above threshold, which is a status that many riders can't hold for more than a few minutes. And that's why you see them going into the red and then quickly dropping back down into the white numbers, because riding above threshold, you're just going to blow if you don't time it correctly. And most riders will work with a margin they know they're capable of doing. So they will only push into the red when they have to close up a gap or get on a wheel. They won't stay in the red until towards the end of the ride, when they will give everything that's left in the tank. And the best place to watch for riders going into threshold, going above threshold, should I say, is like this situation we've got here, where you can see the pedalers rider, Lejean, and he's just putting in the red numbers now as he gets onto the back of the wheel. And that's a typical situation. He's trying to close that tiny gap to get on the wheel and then take advantage of the drafting. And that's when you're going to see riders mostly going into the red. You can see Solly as well is doing it behind him. Solly was pushing 5 watt kilos above there in the red to try and close the gap. Lejean is actually struggling there at the back of the gap, the back of the group. And Solly, who's been dropped, as you can see here, if he's going to get back on, he's going to have to go well into the red to close that gap, because although it's only 20 meters, the group in front are not slowing for him, And for him to close that gap means he's going to have to put out more than 5 watt kilos in above threshold to close the gap. And it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. The gap's growing now, and that's generally what you tend to see. You tend to see riders that aren't capable of riding above threshold for more than, seconds. You generally see them dropping off once the distance by about 20 meters. I've watched this occur so many times that you can generally get a good feel for if a rider's going to close the gap or not. Obviously, you can't get it right on every occasion, but there is a good basis for being able to see whether a rider's going to close the gap. And sadly, Solly here is getting dropped, and he will probably get caught by the team behind him. Careless Vespa, Rowbottom, Shapers, Ostergaard, Samut and Lancelot are all behind, and I think they'll probably close up the gap and join him.
So,
because, sorry Andy, go on.
I was going to say, Doug Hart left a message on the stream to say that John shouldn't be watching. He's at work.
Oh, okay. Working on a Sunday. Well, that explains his earlier. Well, I think also it was tactics from John, but yeah, that explains his earlier run. I do tend to think though that he will be keeping a close eye, maybe not watching the TV, but he will be wanting to find out what's happening here. So Solly and is managing to keep a 50-meter gap to these riders behind, but I think if they can work nicely together, there they go. They've got him in the sights. They're going to catch him. So they'll pull up to Solly, and then hopefully they'll work together. Now you can just see that behind Rowbottom we've got Ostergaard and Shapers coming up, the Razio Racer, Lancelot behind. Samut is the last of this small group on the road. But full credit to Solly, he's not making the catch easy. He's definitely putting in a hard effort to try and stay away. I mean, he's doing a great job here, but they are going to catch him. And then the question is he going to just sit back and sit in this group, or is he going to continue to push on?
Well, they're now 185 metres behind the front group.
Okay, can we go to the front group, Andy, because we're getting towards the top of the climb, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to I got the time from the start of the that was just almost exactly 1 minute, so they've been on the climb now for 16 minutes, which is what I said. It's about a 16-minute climb, so not far off, maybe 17-minute climb. And it'll be interesting to see what time they do it in on the second rep, and that'll give us an indication of whether they managed to maintain the speed or not. So what we got, almost 7 kilometers into the ride, and we're getting towards the top of the first climb. Now we got 8 riders altogether in this front group. Who's that on the back? That's Lejon on the back, the pedaller's rider. Now, Lejon was struggling a little bit earlier, so he's just off the back by about 8-9 meters. But I think he will get back on once they reach the top of this climb because of the terrain, which turns flattish. So that'll give him an opportunity to close up. Although if he drops too much, he's dropping to 17, 18 metres. He needs to make sure that doesn't go out. And in fact, he's putting in red numbers to stop that happening, which is very sensible, because if it went out to about 20 metres, when this team get to the top, which they're almost there now, he would be in trouble, because they're going to create quite a fast gap once they crest this climb. Now I'm watching the graphic on the screen to see when it drops to about the 1% mark, and then I'll note down the time. So what we got here, 1.7, 1.2, that'll do, 19 minutes. So 19 minutes makes it an 18-minute climb. Let's see how long they take for this flat and downhill. I'll mark down that as well. And then we can compare, because realistically they should be doing this flat and downhill section faster on the second time around, because obviously they're going to be pushing to the finish. So that'll give us a good indication for the overall time. Now, sadly, folks, I'm going to mention it early so that you all know, I'm not going to be able to stay around to watch all the riders coming in. This is the halfway point, by the way. This is the halfway point banner that they're just going under. And they did that in 1957. So I'll just mark that down. 1957 halfway. There we go. So yes, I'm not going to be able to stay around like I normally do and watch all the riders coming in, because I have another appointment later on this afternoon with my two girls. So I'll watch the leaders coming in, and then sadly Andy, if he has time, will finish the broadcast for us.
Yep.
Or we might have to close it down. Are you going to do that, Andy?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay, so Andy's going to finish the broadcast, so he will watch all the riders coming in, but sadly you won't be able to listen to my dulcet tones. And obviously I'm going to be back again this evening to cover the evening session. So we've got two riders on this plateau trying to make a break. Let's just go to them and see who they are. Daniel Schock off the front. This will not stick, folks. They will close up on him. There's no way that a 8-man, 9-man group are going to let a 1-man roll off the front like this. It's not going to happen. So they're going to close up on Daniel off the front. And I expect to see the majority of this group, if not all of this group, together for the start of the climb again, which, as I say, is going to take about 15 minutes, I reckon, possibly even less. In fact, much less than 15, yeah, looking at the time. Say 9 minutes. So how many we got? We've got 8 riders. We've got 7 in this chasing pack at the moment, but we've got 8 riders clear with 500 metre gap. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the winner is going to come from this front group. Who was that just joined them on the back? That was Snever. Danish rider, Snever.
No.
Now I've not caught Snever before. He's a new rider to me. So where did he come from? He must have been sitting quietly in the group earlier.
Yeah. Hues came back, one of the Wahoo Cole riders.
Yes, I can see Hues, yeah. He's there.
He was slightly dropped and then came back in.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to do that, Andy, on a downhill section like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Daniel's got a really good lead of 80-odd metres, but like I say, that's not going to stick. This group will catch him. I mean, if he gets to the bottom of the climb and at the base of the second ascent with a 50-60 metre gap, then there's a opportunity to get away, but they're going to catch him here. I can say that quite confidently.
He's on the climb, so they are catching.
Yeah. And particularly on the fast downhill, I don't think he's going to stay away either, even if he gets that far before they catch him. So, but full credit to Daniel. I mean, you can see he's going into the red, heavily into the red. As I say, there he is again. So he really is putting in, excuse me, a maximum effort here to try and stay away from this chasing group. And he has actually pulled out the gap a little bit, because obviously he's now going to be dropping onto the steeper section of this descent. So the gap is going to grow slightly, but they're all on the steep descent now, so they should be able to catch him. Bit of a glitch with the software going around one of these bends. You might see a couple of the riders disappearing. There you go. Yeah, I noticed that on my other monitor. So
yep.
Now, have we got a split in this group, or are they managing to stay? Oh, they're managing to. They've dropped slightly. Is that US off the back?
He's back on now. Yeah.
Is back on. So yeah, on a fast descent like this, you know, a couple of really heavy pedal strokes, and you're going to close up a 10-20 meter gap very quickly. Even a very, very light rider like me can generally stay with a group like this on this kind of descent. I have to work extremely hard, but it's not too difficult if you can stay in the draft. You're doing about half the watt kilos of the guys in front of you, so you should be able to stay with the group. And they've actually pulled back Daniel's gap by a fair old margin now. They're pegging it at about 60 meters at the moment, so they are catching him, and they've got him in the sights on this long before they went into the hairpin. And another advantage they have got, as we see the gap coming down, another advantage they've got is because they're higher above Daniel on the hairpins, they'll be able to look down the side of the hairpins and actually see him when he goes out of sight. So they'll have him in the sights more or less all the way down this downhill. And this is fantastic racing, folks. I'm enjoying this. Yeah, the gap now is down to 34 meters. So they're almost there. They'll be feeling in touching distance now. So once they've caught up with Daniel, we'll watch the catch. And then once they've caught up with Daniel, we'll move a bit further down the field and see how the other riders are doing, how Group 2's doing. Group 2 are currently about 730 meters behind. So they're completely out of the race for the top 10, that's for sure. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. Now, what's happened there with your feed, Andy? Just a glitch. Okay. So 15 meters now before they catch him. Now, the only reason why when Daniel had close to, I think the largest gap was about 140 meters that he had on this group. And many of you would be saying, well, Derek, you've called it out when a rider gets that kind of gap before that he's going to stay away. Well, the reason why I didn't do that this time was because I looked at the course profile and saw these hairpins and the descent, and it's a perfect profile for riders riding together in a group like this to close up that kind of a gap. If it had been an undulating downhill, with up and downs, and Daniel had got a 140 metre gap off the front, there's a very good likelihood they wouldn't have caught him. But on this kind of a downhill where they can work together, and in fact you can clearly see here that we've got a bit of a gap between the groups now, but it will all come back together. They will all arrive at the base of the climb pretty much together, I feel. And so it'll be, round 2, ding, 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 when we get to the base of the climb again, which we're not far off now. Remember everybody, we do the same route twice. So once they get to the bottom of this climb, you'll recognize the terrain. They get onto the little bit of a green section, and then they hit the climb again. They got just over about 500 meters before they hit the bottom of this climb. And then they've got about a kilometer, well, a bit less than a kilometer before they start the real climbing again. So here we go. Here's the start. Look, that's the start banner, as I said. And now we're very quickly, make a note of that. That was 29:56. 56. So let's make a note. And we'll be able to do some time splits then. But just looking at the watt kilos that these guys are putting out once they hit the climb, I'll wait until they do so. But what I'm going to be looking for is to see whether they'll be able to maintain the high 4s and 5 watt kilos that they were doing on the first time around. Now obviously some of the riders are going to be getting a little bit tired, so that might be a big ask. But I think the leading contenders of this race today, as you can see here, look, they're going into the 5 watt kilos and above. So yes, and I think anybody that's going to be in with a shout is going to have to stay at that pace. They're going to have to be doing high 4s and even 5 watt kilos to stay in contention. As you can see, Uaz here doing 4.9. Who we got on the front? We've got Tony DeLoyne on the front. He's doing 5.2 kilos at the moment, 5.1. US just touched 5.3 in the red. And who's that off the back? Is that Wince off the back? Yeah. When I say off the back, folks, that's no disrespect. I mean, he's just lost a wheel. And if you want to stay with the group, he's going to have to close that wheel. Lejeune has dropped to 7 meters behind now. So Lejeune is probably going to drop away. Schneever, I think, is the last rider in this group. And then, as I say, it's about 5-6 meters at the moment to Lejeune. If you just tab down for me, Andy, so that we can see, you see that there he is, just off the back. Now that might not look like much, folks, but that's incredibly difficult gap to close when the group in front of you are pushing 5 watt kilos or close to. You know, he's only 6 meters, well, he's a bit more now because he's falling behind, but he was only 4, 5, 6 meters behind, and that gap is going to go out now because he can't maintain the pace. And then obviously you've got riders, the next group behind him, which we'll just quickly have a look at, please, Andy. So this is the group led by Vespa, Careless Vespa, Ostergaard, Shapers, Solly, Samut, and Rowbottom in this group. So 6 riders, 6 very capable riders, but sadly they're 300 metres behind, and again I can confidently state they're not going to close that. So these riders are fighting for basically, what is it? I think, yeah, and they're fighting for ninth spot onwards or downwards. If we have a look a bit further down the field, we may be able to pick up Keith from OTR leading out the next. Oh, we've got Nick Hall here, and then we've got Keith just behind him, the OTR rider, and I think he's got a teammate, Tony Simmons, with him. Yeah, here we go. So this is Keith from OTR with Tony Simmons just behind him, the 2 OTR riders, and they're literally in nowhere land at the moment. They're between groups, and the question is, do they stay status quo, or do they allow some of the riders further back to join them? Because it's on a climb, the sensible thing to do is just hammer out your own pace. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing around you, just hammer out your own pace. I mean, by all means work together as a twosome as they're doing here, but don't worry about other riders. You just find a comfortable pace that you can maintain on a climb like this. Remember, it's a steady state climb. It never goes much above 8%. Average is 7. So it's the kind of ride where you find a nice steady cadence and basically just churn it out. I'm making it sound a lot easier than it is though, folks, because this is hard work. Okay, let's just move further down the field and have a look at some of the other riders. I'm going to keep an eye on what's happening at the front as well on my other screen. But we'll just have a look at some of the other riders. Here you've got Lancelot. That's a nice name, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
on his own.
Lancelot. Sorry?
On his own.
All on his own in nowhere land. He's 130 metres behind the riders in front, and he's 120 metres in front of the next OTR rider, Bellio, who we'll now move to. So that's, I think it's Stephen Bellio, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The OTR rider. He's not racing in an OTR jersey, and I don't know the reason for that. But he's also on his own, although not far behind. We've got Carruthers, the Vasio racing guy, and they may well come together. Then moving a little bit further down, let's have a look at the full field. We've got another OTR rider, Mr. Soderberg.
Yep.
And again, he's a few meters in front of a couple of riders behind him. So here we go, we've got Gray here. So riders are spreading out all along the road here. Then we've got Stevens, we've got Lopez, the Moon Riders together. We've got Paul Austin just behind them. There's Paul. Paul's riding with James Ogilvie. So James will be trying to work his way slightly up the field here, but this is a good ride. James putting in 4.1 watt kilos, so he's not hanging about. Lake, the other OTR rider, has now joined them, so 3 OTR riders, all putting in a good firm effort here. Okay, who have we got behind them? Let's have a look. We've got Newnham, another OTR rider. Now, he was probably riding with those guys in front, but probably couldn't handle the relative pace. So he's finding his own pace, but he's in nowhere land again. He's between riders.
Yep.
Behind him, we've got Mike Weston from Southern District Wheelers in the lovely yellow and red jersey that I like so much. And then behind Mike, we've got Alacon, another OTR rider. And it looks like he's trying to catch Mike, so they may well end up working a few meters together. And then we've got the first of the Vanbers from Rasio Racing behind. I don't know if both are taking part today. They generally do. But this is Jan Vanbers, and he's being caught by Arhen, who's just gone past him, the Swede, in the blue jersey. And then we've got Krajewski. We've got another glitch in the software, folks.
Yep.
This is Krajewski that you can just see in the middle of this group. And then following on from Krajewski, you've got Fussell in the red and yellow jersey. And then who's the rider that's off the back here? I think this is Dival, the Belgian rider.
Yep.
Is it Belgium? No, sorry,
Dutch.
the Dutch rider. Heaven knows, I should know my own flag. Anyway, there we go. It's just the confusion comes, folks, because the riders' positions flick around and the names move up and down. So
Yep.
you've got to have a good eye sometimes just to follow it. But here we go. Let's have a look at the rider behind. So I think the next rider is Wentz from Moon Riders. Yeah. Now then, what's happened? Let's just have a quick look at the front of the pack, please, Andy, because this is why I noticed that two of the dots had moved clear. So DeLoyne and Henrik Mard have now pulled out a 54-meter gap on the chasing group. And this could well be the winning move because they're opening up the gap now. It's 60 meters. You can see them both going into the red, Henrik going into the red, Tony DeLoyne going into the red. So they are working really, really hard here to try and maintain this this break. It's only 60, I say only 66 meters at the moment, give or take. But I'm going to call this one and say that they will stay away, because once they get to the top of the climb, they'll be able to pull this gap out to a couple of 100 meters on the downhill, and I think that's going to be too much for the group behind to close up. It all depends. If the group behind can close the gap down to round about 40 meters before they hit the top of the climb, then there's a possibility of a catch. But if the gap stays at like it is at the moment, 60 odd meters, they're not going to get caught, because that 60 odd meters is enough space for these guys to get onto the flat and to start putting the power down, get a good gap of at least a couple of 100 meters, and then they're just going to be away. That's the way it works. I know 66 meters doesn't seem like much when you've got such a long downhill to come, but the way that you have to try and calculate it in your head, and the way I calculate these kind of gaps, is how long is it going to take the riders behind to close up that 60 odd meter gap? Because in that time, these two are going to be on the downhill or on the flat, setting a much faster pace and opening up the relative gap. Now they are being pulled back slightly here, so never say never. As I say, the chasers have got to get this down to a manageable amount, which in my mind is about 40 meters. If they can get this down to about 40 meters before they reach the top of the full climb, not this first climb, but the full climb, then there's chances of catching. So let's keep a nice eye on this. If we let's have a look at the riders behind, Andy, and how hard they're working. Let's watch some of their watt kilos. So here we go. We got Daniel, and they're putting in mid fours at the moment. Winch, you could just see, is going slightly higher there. My feeling is these chasers need to up the pace slightly. putting a little, 4.9 there from Kerpel. So yes, if they're gonna close up, they have to be pushing for high 4s or 5 watt kilos to close the gap. They're not gonna do it pushing mid 4 watt kilos. They're just not gonna get there. So this is really the exciting portion of the race now, and this is where it's going to get decided. But as you can see from the graphic, and I'm watching too, the gap is now 85 meters, and I'm confidently going to call this the gone. Goodbye and thank you. They're not going to get caught. So the question now is Tony or is Henrik going to take first spot? And can they beat John Beams's time? I'll give you a clue as to whether they're going to do or not by the time they get to the top of the second climb. But they're well gone now. They're 90 meters in front. Oh, who's that though? Who was that on the side of the road?
That was from the previous lap.
Oh, thank heavens for that. I saw that, Andy.
Yes.
And I was really scared that it was one of the leaders.
Yeah, no.
Oh, glad about that then, because that would be a total disaster. I mean, accidents happen, folks, and bad luck happens. And you may remember that Christophe Contant was doing really, really well in the first stages of this race. Race overall I'm talking about, I'm not talking about today. Was doing really well in the overall GC. And then he couldn't get in on one of the stages. He left his keys outside his house. And he couldn't get in to do the stage, and he missed a stage of the tour. And in fact, I think he's now missed 2. Now that's really bad luck, but it's basically put him well out of contention. You know, you miss one of the key stages, especially one of the mountain stages, where there's big time gaps, and you're out of it. You're not going to come back. And sadly, that's what Christophe Contant did. So, and he wasn't the only one. I think I was reading comments in the forum the other day that one of the ladies that was hoping to do well in this tour also had an issue where she couldn't ride for whatever reason. I think it was a technical with her equipment, and so she couldn't get into the race and lost a stage, and that just puts you totally out of contention. Now, while I've been wittering away, these guys have got the gap down to 70 meters. So this is a huge effort from who is it? Wince, Kerpel and Schock riding together here. And in fact, you can clearly see they've got the other riders in front of them. So this is going to be very interesting. Are they going to prove me wrong? Am I going to get another prediction incorrect? Or is Mad and DeLoyne going to stay away, as I predicted? What do you think, Andy? I'm putting you on the spot here. Are they going to stay away?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they are as well. Yeah, I think it's going to take a huge effort from them, though, because they're not going to be able to stop and relax on the downhill. They're not going to be able to freewheel. They're going to have to really, really turn those pedals, like John Beams did.
Yeah, I'd love my teammate Simon to get up there, but yeah, I think they're going to stay away.
Simon being Simon Kerpel, folks.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he's having a good race, though. There he is, just on screen at the moment, folks. But I don't think they're going to catch. The gap now has gone out to 90. In fact, go to the front, please. We've got a gap. Here we go, folks. Tony DeLoyne has been dropped by Henrik, who's now pushing on. Now, Henrik has got a 30-meter gap and is pushing on towards the top of the climb. Tony DeLoyne is falling further and further behind. Now, another thing to realise here is that the same dynamics do not work for individual riders. So if Henrik gets to the top, and all Henrik needs to be in front of Tony behind him, I'll say 25-30 metres. If Henrik has got 25-30 metres, at least, by the time he gets to the top, he's not going to get caught. Because it's totally different for individual riders. He doesn't need the 40, 50, 60 metre gap that a group would need, that a rider would need to hold off a group. He just needs 25 to 30 metres. And he's going to get that. He's going to arrive at the top of this climb, which is what he's doing now. Let's just wait until it gets to 0. Come on. 49.24, give or take. 49.24. Okay. Okay, so the first climb, folks, and you can see the halfway point here. Let's just mark down the time for the halfway point. 49.57. So let's do a calculation here. Yeah, the second ascent of the climb took the leaders 1.5 minutes, 1 minute and 24 seconds longer than the first time. So they basically lost 1 minute 24. That's the leaders on the climb from the first descent. Now the downhill section is going to be interesting.
Well, that was 10 minutes they did the downhill in.
Yeah, and the reason why I say it's going to be interesting because Henrik is on target to beat John Beam's time if he can match the downhill. But don't forget, the downhill on the first time around was as a group. A group travels much faster, as we saw when they did the catch. So a group can travel much faster downhill than individuals. And we've got two individuals, got Henrik, and then 156 metres behind we've got Tony DeLoyne, and then we've got the chasing group. Now the chasing group are not going to catch Henrik, and it's very unlikely they'll catch Tony. So they're not going to add to the speed on the downhill. The downhill is just going to be a solo effort. So Henrik is going to be slower this time around on the downhill than what he was the first time around.
Yep.
So it could take him longer than 10 minutes, folks, to get to the bottom, in which case we're only talking seconds between him, Henrik Mard, and John Beam's time. Just to remind you, John Beam's time was 1 hour, 1 minute and 5 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on the clock and see how close Henrik gets to that time. Let's have a look at the battle behind him. I think we can leave him for a while here because he's not going to get caught. There's Tony's now 200, almost 300 metres behind, so he's not going to catch Henrik. Let's have a look at the group behind. And here we go, look. Now they can't see Tony in front of them, so they will obviously when they get into the hairpin sections, but they can't see Tony, and also I think 150 metres is too much to ask for free riders. Maybe if they were bigger group, but even then I don't think they'd make a catch. No, I think that's too much to ask. But this is nice to see. It's nice to see these three working together, keeping the pace high. But having said that, look at the difference, Andy and viewers, look at the difference in watt kilos being output. Henrik Mard is putting out close to 5 watt kilos on the descent. as is Tony DeLoyne. Tony, I mean, he's eased off slightly now, but Tony is putting out 5.4, 5.7 going into the red there. So Tony is putting out amazing wattage on the descent, and in fact is closing up on Henrik. No, only slightly. But yeah, this group following on behind is starting to put the power down now. But my worry is that they need to keep it going. They can't be dropping into the lower mid threes and easing up at all, which is what exactly they're doing now.
Yep.
I think they should be pushing. I really do. But maybe they're just settling now. They're just settling in because they know they're not going to. I mean, they'll be able to see the screens just like we can. They'll know they're not going to catch Tony, even though they brought it down to 115 metres. They're not going to catch him, full stop. So maybe they're just settling into, their own races now, because they're basically fighting for third place, these three riders. As we watch Daniel Schock try to get off the front and leave these other two behind. It's not going to happen. They're going to get on his wheel and close it up. So it's not going to happen. He's got a nice gap now. Ooh. Have I spoken too soon, folks? Has he done it? Has he got away? I think he has, He's got 60 metres already.
Yep.
On these two. He's gone. He's gone. Goodbye. Well, that must have definitely caught these two by surprise, because they didn't make any effort to close up to his wheel. They probably thought, oh, he's just doing a turn on the front, and then all of a sudden he's gone. I think they got caught by surprise. Now, Wince and Kerpel are trying here desperately to claw back to Daniel, but there's that glitch again.
Yes.
But it's not going to happen. So it looks like Daniel is firmly in third place now. So the first three riders, first, second and third, are going to finish as they are at the moment on the road. Unless somebody has a mechanical. And never discount that, because we've seen it happen before. We've seen riders within metres of the line actually have a dropout. I hope it doesn't happen. That would be unforgivable, but these two are working well together. Okay, shall we have a little look back and see what the battle for the top 10 is going to be then, Andy? So we've got US here. He's out on his own. He's in the middle. So I think it's safe to say that US will get his sixth spot.
Yep.
I don't see him being caught, and he's not going to catch the riders in front. So I think his place is secure. But then 7th and 8th could be a bit of a battle here, because you've got Snever, although it looks like Snever is now pulling out a nice gap on Lee John,
Yeah, it's
the
200
fifth
metres.
rider behind him.
Yep.
So yeah, it looks like 6th, 7th and 8th are settled, although we've got Rowbottom and Vesper behind him. Never say never, but I think the only close battle here, Andy, is going to be for what we're looking at, for 10th and 11th and 12th spot.
Yep.
That's the only tight battle. I think, well, we might see a few more joining the party. I think 10th spot is where the battle is going to be. I don't see anything happening much before then. This group are working really nice together. What an interesting race. Wow. And just behind this group, if we just move further back down the field, we've got another group of 4 or 5 riders. Here we go. Now this is Keith's group. This is it Nigel Hall, Keith from OTR,
Yep.
Samut and Bellio. Sorry, not Bellio, Samut. It's Nicky Hall, sorry, Tony Simmons and Keith. And they're going to finish inside the top. So these riders are going to get a top 20 spot. And then there's a bit of a battle going on just behind them for the last couple of places for that top 20 spot. And battling that out will be, if we just drop back slightly, please, Andy, to these riders. So these two riders are going to be trying to cement the top 20 places. We've got Bellio from OTR and Carruthers from Rasio Racing. And I think they're going to hang on to those spots as well. And then bringing up the 20th spot is going to be Gray, and he'll hang on to his 20th spot. So I think in the top 20, from what I can see from the graphics, we're going to go back to the front, folks. But from what I can see from the graphics, there's only one battle going on for the top 10, and we'll come back to that a little bit later.
It's very close.
Now we've got Henrik very close to the finish here, and very close to beating John Beams's time. I think he's going to do it. He's got 500 meters to do, and he's got more than enough time to do it. He's absolutely flying down here, and in fact, I think there's a possibility here he could take a full minute out of John's time. It's going to be very, very close. I think he's going to do that. He's going to take more than a minute.
Well,
let's have a look at his time.
This is the end.
49, 50, 51,
Yep.
52. So he's taken 1 hour and 1 minute and 13 seconds out of John Beam's time. That's fantastic. And even Tony DeLoyne here
Is being caught.
Who's being caught, but he's going to make the line. So Tony in second, and he's taken a minute out of John Beam's, just short of. Now just behind was Daniel. So Daniel's taken time out of John. This lad's taken time, this lad's taken time, so Kerpel gets time on John. All these riders are taking time out on John Beams, all of them. So even down to 6th place here, they're still taking time out of John. So maybe that wasn't such a smart move to do the earlier run, because there's no doubt he could have gained time working in that group on the first time around this descent. Remember when they all came down it together?
Yep.
And John could have benefited from that. Now he's beaten John Beam's time. No, he's matched it. So 7th place Snaver, 6th place US matched John Beams's time. So the riders that you now see coming in are all outside of that time set. I mean, this has been an amazing race. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. What a race. Now I'm going to stay with you, Andy, for the top 20, and then I'm afraid I'm going to have to say goodbye.
Okay, super. Thanks, Derek.
Until this evening.
Mm-hmm.
We'll watch the top 20, because I don't really see... the next place is going to be... Is it the next place? Yeah, we've got a battle hotting up here. Here we go, look. This is the battle. Wow, and who got it? Looked like Vespa got it.
Yep. Vespa, Solly, Rowbottom,
Vespa and Solly got the last 2 of the top 10 places. Vespa in 9th and Solly in 10th. Rowbottom finishing 11th. Shapers in 13th rather. Simmons in 14th. At the moment, if we can go to that action, there's action hotting up for the 14th spot. Here we go. So this is for 14th place, folks. A battle royal between Simmons, Samot, Keith and Hall. A 4-way battle for 14th spot. And who's going to get it? So exciting racing further down the field to make up the top 20. 900 meters to go. Okay. My money's on Samut. Even though he is the rider at the back at the moment. No, he's gone.
Yeah.
I called a rider that's been dropped. Well done, Derek.
Let's go for Keith.
This is fantastic. This is Keith and Tony. Oh no, the back.
Samut's back.
The back. The back. So come on, Samut. Come on. It's not that I don't want the OTR boys to run. It's just
Ooh.
who's going to get it?
He
Who's
got
going to
it.
get it?
Samut.
Who's going to get it? Samut got it. I was right.
Yeah.
Yay! I know he's a good sprinter. That's why I called him. Yeah,
Samut
well
Keith.
done. Whoa. So, okay. Well, because we've got who's the next rider in? These two riders. We've got 2 kilometers to go. I'm going to knock it on the head here,
Yep.
Andy. I'll leave you to commentate on the riders coming in, and I'll see you tonight, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks, Derek.
Okay, take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. So now you got Bellio and Carruthers, and you got Gray 200 meters behind. So who's going to get it out of these two? I'm going to say Bellio will get it. Last corner? No. So it looks as though Gray and Pear are not closing the gap. So that was the last corner. Now into the last 600 meters. Who's got enough left for the sprint? So it wasn't to go too quick and too early. Who's going to go for it? Yep, Bellio. Oh, I don't know. Carruthers got that one. Wow. And Bellio behind. Well done, Carruthers. On the line. So Gray then takes it. And Pear is right behind it. So Gray take that one out of the two. And then you got Stevens coming through. Awesome, Stevens. Well done. And you got Lopez out on his own. And you got Lake from OTR behind. That's 430 meters behind. Well done, Lopez. That's 23rd. So look at the 24th position. And then we'll have a look at Peter and James. Tony Lake coming through now. On 24th. Well done. Right, here we go. Peter takes it, and then James after. Well done, guys. And Arnhem is still on the downhill. Well, it's got 820 metres. But he is being caught, so if I go back to the other rider, so Lancelot and Fusil, both are going to see if they can catch Arnhem. Let's see if we can see this. Let's go to Arnhem, because it doesn't look as though he's going to get caught. So Arnhem takes 27th, well done, and then Fusil comes in 28th, and then Lancelot 29th. Awesome. Let's go to Western. Western takes our top 30. And Newnham coming through now. Well done, Newnham and Krajewski. And I don't think he's going to get caught. But action coming up from behind. You got the two, so DeBars. Yes, super. Cedarwell and Wentz riding together, and it does look as though they're going to get caught because they're about 650 meters from the guys behind them. Who's going to get this? Duhallo's going up 6.2, but has he gone too early? 8.3, 8.9, 10.8. No, he's got it. Awesome. So, well done, Ganinato. And then Wentz and Kingham. These two should be finishing in front of the guys. So Miller, and that's a group with Gordon Jackson in. So let's see out these two who will get there. So Wentz is doing all the red numbers, but is he going too early? Is Kingham just going to go straight through? No. Well done, Wentz. Awesome, Kingham. Right, let me go by them and Gordon. Gordon's doing a cracking job. And you do have Simon Miller behind. So is he going to disrupt it? So, oh, just get it, Gordon? Gordon? Yes. Oh, does he? No? Yes? No? Yes, he does. So, Gordon. It took a bit of time there. So Gordon takes it, then by them, then Miller's. Where are we? Warren. Sorry about that, folks. Got all excited and pressed the wrong key. So Gordon taking it on the line. Wow. Absolutely fantastic. So Warren, and then you got Solly. Now Solly's 193 metres behind. So let's see if he can change, if he can get that gap closer. We're now into the last 630 meters. And you're Evan then behind them. So Solly's definitely not going to catch now. Well done, Warren. Right, Solly's on his own. So I think this is the first lady coming through, so well done, Solly. Really strong ride. And then Evan, my teammate from 3R Speedwagon. And he's not going to get caught from where I am. So, super ride. Awesome. Well done, Evan. And where I'm again is in no man's land. So James is what, 850 meters behind him. So it looks as though he will secure 46th place. And that's an incredible achievement if you think you've got to do 2 laps of this course. Is he now out? Yep. Nope. So let's just wait for the 6:30 banner with a little tent. And he's pulled out the gap, so James is definitely not able to catch up. He's not now 980 meters behind. So Wareham's done a cracking job here. Okay, we're out. So 6:30 to go. And now James 1.2k behind. So awesome effort. Well done, Wareham. 46th place. So is Clayton's going to catch James? James is taking it easy on the downhill. Okay, so 6:30 to go. And virtually no power. Okay, awesome. Well done, James. Clayson's coming through, so you can see the 6:30 tent below. And then you got Dirty Town behind at 7:30. So 6:30 tent. Well done, class ends. So next is Dirty Dan. Excuse me. And the same glitch in the software where you lose the rider. So very similar to what we had on, I think, stage 3, where we did the circular route. So well done, Dirty Dan. And then we've got Rich and Adam Morgan going to work together. And Doug Hart saying it wasn't tactics to go early today or just shift work. I think it's incredible that John can put in that kind of time and then go to work afterwards. I'd be dead. So yeah, incredible effort for John there as well. And thanks, Doug. So who's going to take this? Is it Rich or is it going to be Adam? I think Adam. Rich is just staying in the wheel. Awesome. Well done, Adam. Well done, Rich. 50th and 51st. And then Neves coming up to the 6:30 banner or tent. And no one really going to stop him from getting that, so that's his 52nd place. Well done, Neves. Okay, so Belgium. GRYP. Gripe. Let's do that one. So L Gripe coming down. And he's slowly followed behind by Jezard. What's 122, 126, 130 meters behind. So at 6:30. And then that's followed by Paul and Shane as well, and they're doing really well. And so there's quite a few battles still to go. So El Gripe coming through, well done, 53rd place. And Jezard coming through now, not too far behind. So, well done Jezard, 54th. And then we got Shane and Paul Nichols. Who's going to take this one? Come on, Shane. Yes, awesome, Shane, well done. And Paul, excellent job, 55 and 56th. Marchie's coming down now. And he should get 57th. Duel is quite a way behind. Not 380 meters. So I've got to remind myself to have a chat with Derek about his first track ride. I know when I learnt track, we were on a concrete track, and very difficult, very sore. So as cyclists, we've all got our own stories to tell about various different situations or accidents. One of mine, I was cycling to a girlfriend's, she worked in a hospital. You see where this is coming, where it's going. So it's pitch black, it was raining. So this is back in the days when you didn't wear a helmet. I had a hood on my coat, so I put that up. I did have lights on, and I was cycling along, and we were doing about 32 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, I hit this van. It was parked by the side of the road, and I went straight through the back window. And there were these three guys really shocked, because as you can imagine, this lemon coming through their window, making a cup of tea. So thankfully for them, they gave me a hand to get to the hospital. But yeah, we all got lots of stories like that. So March is coming through on 57th. And Duel now coming through, just finished going through the 6:30 banner. Yeah, so other than scratches and a few cuts, what was surprising is the forks took the whole brunt of the accident and bent the forks. The wheel didn't buckle at all, which is really surprising. But yeah, the shock of the people in the van where they're making a cup of tea. So Duel comes through and 58th. And then we got Tapadas and Creeps. And let's see if they make a battle of this. yeah, it's a huge achievement for you guys to do this course, but to do it twice. Massive achievement. And let's see if we can have some more battles at 6:45, folks. So that time to beat is 59:47. March is saying you think he's blown his heart rate monitor up. So Tabadas is now at the bottom, 6:30 tent. And he's not going to get caught. So Creeps is what, 240 meters behind. And it's all downhill here till you get to the last 50-60 meters. So well done, Tabadas. That's 59th place. And we go to Creeps. Creeps is going to come through. Just going to hit that bit of a climb. So Creeps come through in 60th. Well done. Jorgensen. And he's got Frey and Tsang. I think she's the second lady. And we're going to be quite a long way here. Because they're just getting up to the top of the climb before the big downhill. So, anyone watching the streaming, if you've got some anecdotes or some stories to tell about your cycling adventures or accidents that you've had, put it in the chat. Share it with people. I know mine was funny. Luckily, no broken bones. But I have mates that went on to do pro cycling and they've had some horrendous accidents. Luckily, they're still with us today. So Frey's just dropped Jorgensen, so they're 65 meters behind, and also Sang has been dropped as well. She's now 194. So are we going to see a battle here? At the moment, looking at the watts per kilo, probably not. But still a long way to go. But I think one of the things I enjoy about doing this is having that opportunity to work with Derek. So Derek's been doing a lot of cycling commentary, and I took up this with OTR Love Team Time Trial series for season 3, and trying to follow in Derek's footsteps is a huge ask. So I'm just honoured, pleased, excited to work with Derek in this series, and it's fabulous. And we will both be back at 6:45 this evening. And one of my teammates was asking, can we have some orbital views? So hopefully that's happening at the moment. When you go into spectator mode, if you're not following the rider and moving your mouse around and just following that rider, you lose track of where they are, and the camera doesn't pan properly to pick them up. So can we? So I'm not going to move the mouse. Let's see what happens. So that's quite clear. So we got some trees, then we did a reverse, so we now got the frontal view of the rider, now the back view of the rider, and then we'll probably get the front view again. And that's what you get when if you're not managing the controls. So awesome. So Jorgensen is 132 meters behind still. Sang has dropped considerably down to 3 kilometers. So I think Sang and Wei are the other 2 ladies, and what I haven't seen is Christine today, so we're assuming Christine will be going this evening. And I think it's Christine that's leading the way from the ladies' side. So Jorgensen is now 152 meters. Can they catch up? So 320 meters to go. Nice one, Frey. You've won that battle between Jorgensen and Sang as well. Excellent. So Frey takes 61st, and if we go to Jorgensen, Jorgensen has come through in 62nd, well done. And Sang, so fantastic ride. 6.8 watts per kilo. Well done, Sang, it's 63rd. Now we've got a couple of riders left. So you've got Wei and Zani. and then his lair is behind me. And they've all done all the hard work, so they've completed the climbs. And then Way's just about to get onto the downhill section. But Sandy's not too far behind. So 424. Are they going to be able to close that gap? Doesn't look like it. It's a way pushing on. Zanny's now 690 meters back. This is such an exciting and excellent series to do. Can't wait for next year. Hopefully I can find a team. So 3.26k to go. And Zanny's now at what, 700 meters behind. It's some incredible views here as well. Can you imagine what this is like in real life? So weigh 2.1, now 1.8, 2.2 watts per kilo. 2k to go. Doing a cracking job. But Zanny is coming back. 687 meters. So slowly coming back. And there is time. If they're pushing, there is time. So 1.5 to go. But looking at that, I would say Zanny is slightly heavier than Wei. Is it An Wei? Because they're not putting in the same watts as An's pushing quite hard. Okay, so 6:30 to go. Fantastic ride today for An Wei. And Zanny hasn't done enough to close the gap. Awesome. Well done, Anne. 64th place. We got Zanny just coming down. One more turn. Nope. So he's now at the 6:30 tent. And I might not be able to record the whole of Hislaire's race because they're behind me and I'll finish first and I won't be able to see them. So well done, Zanny. Looking good though. Huge achievement. All right, be back in a sec. Awesome, back folks. So, how is his layer getting on? 2.4 to go. As I say, I don't know what it's going to do when I get to finish beforehand. It may just cut over to me as I finish the race, so apologies if that happens. That's not in my control. But super effort again today. Okay, interesting. Very unpredictable. I can see the inverse of a world. As I say, this is out of my control. A bit weird. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching, and Derek and I will be back later on this evening. Great, yeah. Take care, folks. Cheers. Bye bye.